which is to say this. I came into the dating space with anxious, avoidant attachment wounding, which is this. Right? It's like, keep your distance, come here a little bit. Keep your distance, but come here. It's like very confusing. How can you date this? How awful, right?
That doesn't sound fun.
Yeah. So no shame in their game.
Yeah.
In the boyfriend game. Like, I get it. Like, I wouldn't. Good. You dodged a bullet for sure. Right. But Jeff was there for it. And so knowing.
So here's the question.
Yeah.
How did he deal with that? Like, how did he navigate the come here, stay away, come here, stay away?
I'm going to cry. Okay. I'm trying not to cry. Jeff was so grounded. Yeah, you never do these podcasts without tissue. Jeff was so grounded in who he was as a person, as a man. So as my brother would say, he was given his man card. His dad gave him his man card.
Okay.
So Jeff was not intimidated by my chaos. He wasn't afraid of it. It's like the sailor going into a storm. He's like, I know what this is. I know what this animal is. And it might kill me.
She got some teeth. She got some venom.
I might die. But I'm here for it. I'm here for the adventure. This is why I'm alive, right? Like if you think about the rodeo cowboy, this bull could kill me. It could. But I know the bull. I know what it is. I know what it's capable of. I'm a little scared.
Watch the horns.
I'm a little scared. Watch the horns. Do your thing. Do your thing. But watch the horns. And Jeff was given his man card. And so I'm doing okay so far. I'm holding it in. Because he wasn't afraid, my fear did not intimidate him.
Okay.
That's a man. That is God's righteousness covering a woman. That is God's righteousness in a man. And if Jeff was here, he would say, hold up, and then he would say all the things that I did, all the ways in which I helped him, and all the ways in which I loved him and helped. He had two nicknames for me.
That sounds like a good marriage.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. His two nicknames for me were Hummingbird and Sledgehammer. And he said,
and self-diagnosed baby rattlesnake.
And so
I'm just picturing a sledgehammer holding hummingbird.
Hummingbird holds a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
Hummingbird ain't tripping.
Man, that's hilarious.
But he would
some
say,
some people are wolf in sheep's clothing. Some people are hummingbirds without sledgehammer.
That's right. That's right. And honestly, like, probably some of my coaching clients might also say that too. Like, if I think about it now, it's like, I think if there's someone were in there, they might also say that.
Hummin's got to paint some mural of it.
Hummingbird holding a sledgehammer. That's right.
Post it on your door.
But what was so great about Jeff was that was the final relationship where there actually was a courting-esque relationship, because we were both of the mind toward marriage.
Yeah.
For the first time. And then what happened?
Looky there.
We got married.
Worked.
Right. What was different was that self-disclosure.
Did you have a chaperone?
No, and that's what I'm getting to right now.
Okay.
What was different is that we did not, and we did end up having premarital sex. And this, I think, with your permission, is something that I shared in our conversation, which is the book I want to write with She Who Shall Remain Unnamed, your mom, about sex.
Here,
and
how about this?
Yeah.
My mom.
Yeah. There you go. All that it is, all that sex is, which is those things that I've already tried to list out, because it's not just sex. So getting back to the Jeff and Sarah story, the way in which that the premarital sex negatively impacts and impacted the marriage, I don't know that. How can I say this? I don't want anyone to ever have to experience that in their marriage, because it totally contaminates and disrupts intimacy. Not necessarily relational intimacy, but the sexual intimacy piece, which is essential for the man. And in this way, the way in which men, and you're a man, so you can speak to this, of course, please do. The way in which male female brain and the experience with the act of sex, and that's, again, I wish Jeff was here, so I'm gonna try to channel him and use him. Is that that is where they receive love. They receive, I feel respected, I feel masculine and manly, I feel received, I feel like the respect piece, and the way sex and respect and honor and love are wrapped up into that act is so integral for the man, and then by default received then by the woman. And so when you have premarital sex, the way that contaminates, or I'm going to say infects, sexual intimacy, is that touch becomes it's experienced very differently after that. So once you've kind of blown it, right? It's recoverable. It's 100% recoverable. Yeah. Everything, there's room for repair always, or I'm in the wrong business, right?
Yes.
However, going back to God's love for us and his intention for us, is like that. Life is so hard already. It's so hard already. Don't invite it. Don't invite hardship. And the marriage relationship is so difficult already, especially in early days. Don't invite the difficulty. Don't invite the hardship. So the way in which, and I'm sure like diagnoses, it can manifest in many different presentations, but the way the infection presented itself in our marriage relationship was by way of touch. And this is what it looked like. There was no such thing as a non-premeditated massage. There was no such thing as hand holding or a gentle caress.
There was always an end goal.
Right. In my brain.
It was always like a manipulative.
Yes.
What's he really wanting from this? Yeah.
Yes. So that piece was huge. Mm-hmm. And it fostered really great conversations between us. And there definitely was absolute healing in our relationship. A lot of things. I mean, so we're talking about premarital sex, so we might as well jump into his.
This might be a little bit of a too intimate question, but was how you initially got into the premarital sex, like,
how did it happen?
Like leading up to that, was that much more of he kind of, like there was that initial, it was a touch and then that.
No.
Okay.
No. So in the same context of multiple layers, I will say this. Jeff and I we had like a hurricane of like our relationship was just like it was on fire.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to say pseudo engaged before we met, in the sense that we were talking about marriage. We wanted to get married to this other guy who was a great guy. He dodged a bullet. We hadn't gone ring shopping, but we had ring ideas. We were gonna get married.
Yeah.
And then he broke up with me. So I met Jeff during that time, and I thought Jeff was a test. Well, that's a whole different conversation. So then like a year goes by, and then Jeff comes back into my life after that guy broke up with me.
Okay.
Who for a woman he ended up marrying, which again, yay, because again he dodged a bullet. And the other guy, yeah. No, Jeff got the bullet. So when Jeff came on the scene, I was
hummingbird,
done.
Bullet,
yeah, I know, all these
sledgehammer.
I know. I do love myself, I promise. But Jeff he saw Broken Bird. He was like, oh, she's going to be easy prey because she's, I can be a rebound, basically. So he wasn't of the marriage mind when we first met. Huh. He was used to easy prey because he didn't have to work at it. Girls threw themselves at him. Mm-hmm. And so it wasn't, so what I presented was a challenge. And that's what became interesting to him.
Yeah.
So the problem for us with respect to sex was that we
just combine them.
We didn't have any accountability. We had zero accountability. We had zero. I'm going to say Jeff was already living on his own at that point.
How old was he?
20. He was already fully employed. And he was already on his own, and he was 23 and I was 22.
Okay.
And we got married when he was 24 and I was 23. So met and married a year and a week.
Wow.
So within a year and a week. And we were spending hours upon hours upon hours of uninterrupted time together. That's also a problem. I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
Don't. If Sarah 24 years ago was like, what are you talking about? It was amazing. Like 25 years ago. But that was the problem. It was too much intimacy too fast.
Gotcha. Okay.
Without escort, without accountability. So like you can still, like, for example, we're here in this really cool room. If there's another person here, we still know there's another person here. Nothing crazy is going to happen if we're dating. Yeah. So that's I'm not saying like somebody has to be like in the car, like, of course, like it's just within reason.
Yeah.
But there's still an ability for relationship to deepen.
Yeah.
In the accountability space without you ever officially being alone.
Yeah.
And that I think is a far more responsible approach than literally. I was a server, so I would get off. So he was working shift. He was doing shift work, so he would get off.
What did he do?
He was a correctional officer.
Oh, right.
So he would get, and young, so he got the worst shifts. So he would get the shift where you get off like late at night, you know, and I was a server, I was a waitress, so I was free by midnight. So we would watch the sun come up. Talk about dangerous hours to be developing relationship.
Yeah.
So my dad, who is an amazing creature, was so ticked off that I had been so hurt so often because of whatever. It's like this horrible cycle that he wouldn't even allow Jeff in the house. The first 3 months that we were dating, Jeff was not allowed in the house. So we were literally sitting in his Jeep in the front of the house.
I feel like that's almost worse.
It's because we're outside of the house. Yeah. But
I mean, that's probably not the most comfortable
place
to do it.
It was kind of, my dad's not stupid. So that part was also.
You can hang out together on a bed of thorns.
Right. We'll call it good at that point. Yeah. So I think the rapidness of the intimacy, the fact that we were just immediately enthralled with one another.
Yeah.
And I felt so safe. And it like literally from you become so involved in another human's life that it's the natural next step is that level, which is why I think biblically it's like, just get married already.
Yeah.
Like just and Jeff proposed at 3 or 4 weeks in. He's like, let's just do this.
I mean, full send.
And my mother was always like, 4 seasons. You must spend at least a year, you know. And there's a lot of wisdom there also, because behaviors change. You want to see how people are with other people. I want to see how he deals with conflict resolution. I want to see how he deals with his parents. I want to see who his friends are and how long he's had those friendships. I want to see how the winter impacts his emotions versus the summer. Like those are important things. Like those are things that are important.
Yeah. But also you can kind of speed run through a lot of those things.
How so?
Like just. I mean, I feel like your come here, stay away.
My anxious avoidant attachment
is naturally breeds that sort of conflict resolution. Mm-hmm. And you seeing that he's there and staying and is comfortable with that immediately is like, okay, he can deal with conflict. We're solid. And so not necessarily I don't necessarily recommend that, but also that initial like acknowledgement of, oh, he's good with this. That's a very solid sign of like, okay, we got nearly the number one base covered. Mm-hmm. And then you can also, once you've got top whatever number, then you can kind of be like, okay, this is a very, very much a possibility. All right, let's, with the pursuit of marriage, then you kind of figure out, okay, here are the things that you want to make solid in your future spouse. and then kind of go, okay, let's check these off one by one of like, okay, here, what's his relationship like with his friends? All right, let's go hang out with his friends.
Mm-hmm.
Here's this friend. Here's his best friend.
And the quality of his friends.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, I mean, while that does take time, but you do have a certain responsibility to then go seek those relationships out and figure out, okay, is he like this at his work? Is he like this at home? Is he?
Yeah.
And it's not just by happenstance. Oh, I came to drop something off because you left this at my house. Oh, now I can see what you're like at home. It's like, no, I want to go hang out with you at your house. I want to go hang out with you at your parents' house while you're having dinner. Like all these things that you can kind of pursue in the pursuit of marriage. But it's not just like a passive happenstance sort of thing. That's what I kind of meant by you can expedite the thing.
And I will say this for Jeff, he was very consistent. It didn't matter what he was surrounded by, his character maintained.
That's huge. That
was different.
Yeah.
That I had, of all the good young men that I had dated, when I say all, there was like 3. If I count my high school boyfriend, 4, maybe 5. I'm going to count. Like 5, literally 5. Their behaviors changed in different company.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. But Jeff's did not.
That also shows what type of company that they like to be around as well. So that
I'm gonna give grace to the high school guys because
fair, you're still trying to figure out who the heck
they were
are.
Puppies. Yeah. No shame in their game. The older college career individuals, I would have a higher expectation. But I mean, even Jeff at 23 is still pretty. He was just a remarkable guy, and in general, like I don't know that I will ever be able to remarry, honestly, because of the blessing curse of having been married to such an incredible man. So, and I do think
even the idea of a possible future man is like, good luck, dude. Like
I'm really coming to terms with that. Like literally in the past couple weeks, I've just been like, I wonder if God's going to remove this desire from me to be remarried because I just can't see it. I can't see it anymore. Which that's again, I have to put that on the podcast list. But getting back to like the character of the person that you're wanting to spend time with, the slippery slope occurred, and the way that impacted the marriage negatively was that there was a trust bond broken before we were able to establish a trust bond in that particular area, which happens to be one of the most important areas in marriage.
Yeah.
And that...
Because I feel like it's the culmination of the marriage.
Expand that for me.
Like, I mean...
What is the culmination of marriage? Trust bond or sex?
Sex.
Okay, to expand that. Yeah, expand that part for me.
I mean...
As you understand it, or...
There's the scene in the Oppenheimer movie. Great movie, by the way. Need to skip a few scenes, but... one of the scenes that has that you need to skip. I watched it in theaters, so it wasn't possible.
Was it a sex scene?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was done very well, and then it took a turn, which is so irritating.
Yeah.
But essentially, he's being grilled about his relationship with this other woman in front of his then wife.
Oh boy.
And so the camera's like panning around and essentially like as the camera's panning around, he like loses his clothes.
Oh no.
And like he's under like...
So that's like a metaphor of vulnerability.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that part I was like, that makes perfect sense. Well done. And then they went crazy. But all that to say is like nakedness is a proxy for vulnerability, and being the utmost vulnerable with someone else as they're vulnerable is such that in and of itself
that's intimacy.
Is so
That's intimacy and physical as it manifests physically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, of course,
according to the definition that I presented earlier around my vulnerability is not going to be weaponized, like that whole piece.
Yeah, you're trusted enough that you're not going to be weaponized in that scenario.
That you can be that free.
Exactly.
In no other relationship other than with the Holy Spirit, other than with the Triune.
Yeah.
That you can be that vulnerable, that open, that free.
What's funny is even that, though, is kind of like... That part's almost not a choice, because I mean, you can kind of shut yourself off from God, but also he's the one who made you.
I don't know any Christian who doesn't. Well, yeah, but I mean that's the whole point. That's the whole point. I think my argument for marital sex is that that's God's like glimpse of his glory, of all that he has to offer us. If it's done authentically, if it's done, this whole courting thing, if it's done well, there is infinite room for friendship.
Yeah.
There's infinite room for trust. There's infinite room for repair. There's infinite room for conflict mediation. There's infinite room, like all the things that God offers us in him can manifest, can be facilitated and represented in the marriage relationship.
Yeah.
When done well. But when done well, it's like, how do you have a good day? Your good day starts the night before.
There's so much truth in that statement.
So that's courting.
Yeah.
My marriage, my eventual marriage, my grandchildren and great-grandchildren depend on the way in which this union begins.
Yeah.
And
there's no responsibility there.
Right, are you seeing what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like so what are we doing with online dating? What are we doing with letting these 12-year-olds have boyfriends? What are we and girlfriends? What are we doing when we're as a church community? And I'm not going back to like the Handmaid's Tale. I'm not talking about like all of the the rigidity of Puritanism. I'm not doing that. I am all for sex. Like clearly in this conversation, hopefully what gets through is that sex is good.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful and it's right. And it's a gift from our Creator to us. What a precious gift he has given us. But what is required is responsibility, accountability, purity, relationship, understanding what love is, all of the fruit of the Spirit. The fruit of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness. And what?
Self-control.
That's right. And when that's not present, even in the preliminary stages, fruit from a bad tree.
Yeah. It's so funny because I love story and story structure, everything that goes before that. And in terms of sex and what like leading up to it, it's like you're seeing the end of or the climax of the story without anything leading up to it.
Say that one more time.
So, sex is the climax.
Yes.
It's the culmination.
It's the gift. Yes. It's the thing you're aiming for. The good.
Ideal sex. Mm-hmm. There is the marriage that propagates good sex.
Yes.
And healthy sex.
Yes.
And but I mean, in a certain sense, in story, there's the climax, and then there's also the denouement.
Yes.
And so there's still a little bit after the climax that still needs to be had. But even in terms of a story, there's still the climax is 5-10% of the whole story.
Right.
And so there's still 75, 80, 90% that leads up to that thing.
That's right.
And so and then, I mean, sure, you can go on YouTube and type in, the last battle of whatever movie. And it's like,
right.
Sure, it's fun, it's cool. But then you miss so much of the lead up. And I mean, even if you've seen the movie prior, you have a general sense of what has gone before it, but even that is still so shallow. But then when you watch the full movie and you're watching it in the theater and it's like you're all immersed into it, and then you get to the climax and then you're like, oh,
yep,
it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can have the denouement, the propagation of what happens after the climax, and there's a possible sequel.
There's a life ever after. There actually is a life ever after. Yeah. Funny side story on denouement. The first time I ever saw that word, I was because I wasn't. We were taught resolution, not denouement, and I was in college, getting my second bachelor's degree in English literature, and I said denouement. I sure did. Nice. And my professor at the time, who happened to be an Oxford graduate,
oh jeez,
looked at
you
me,
got ripped into.
Looked at me, and she said, "Oh, that's pronounced just like didn't skip a beat. No, there was no shame. Like obviously I'm a country girl. Like it was obvious I was from the country." She's like, "It's pronounced denouement," and I was like, "Oh, thank you, and please forgive me for being so dumb." She was great. Yeah, that's a great great analogy. That's a great analogy.
In my English class, they were talking, like, I think
Are we talking college or high school at this point?
High school.
Okay.
Yeah. Sophomore year. We were talking about like different logical fallacies and that sort of thing, and she's like,
in English? That's outstanding. Good job, teacher.
So surface
I had to go to
level.
college to get conversations on logic.
I was studying logic in 8th grade.
Oh wow.
That's Sloka. So yeah. Good old private school.
Yeah. Well, specifically classical.
Yeah, classical education. Yeah. Love it. Very helpful. But we learned in that class, in my sophomore year, she was saying we got to the red herring fallacy, and she's like, "I have no idea why it's called this."
Sticky fish.
Yeah. And so I raised my hand and told her the story of like, it's called the red herring because in the Renaissance times or whatever it was, they'd use a red herring they throw it in throw the fish, bury it in the forest, and then when the hunting dogs would come, they'd go for the red herring instead of the actual scent. And she's like, "Oh,
brilliant.
All right.
That worked."
Well, there you go.
Just teaching logic and didn't know the origin story.
Yeah, I was
That's
like,
interesting.
And the funniest part is she was getting her, I think like,
don't say it.
No, it was bad. She was, I think, like in the coming months or something like that, she was getting her doctorate in English, and I was like, "Yikes, that's a tough one."
No comment. I was at dinner the other night with some friends, and I can't remember what we were talking about, but college came up, and one of at least half of them, I want to say, are mom and pop business owners who bypassed college and who are doing great financially. And somebody said, "Well, in college you learn," and then somebody piped up, "I didn't go to college," and then I'm like, "Yeah, I don't advocate college anymore. I'm not going to advocate college."
Yeah. That's a whole other conversation. Yeah. My goodness.
So did I answer the question on dating and courting for the most part?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got to one of the 5 questions that I had specifically on dating.
Yeah. And I mean, there is a strategic difference, and there is, I think it's important that as a church community that we start to, if we want marriages to last, and if we want the family structure and the beauty of family, or the village as it were, to make a comeback, to have revival, we need to be far more diligent and conscientious around the stewardship of our children.
Yeah.
I mean, and broad spectrum, but specifically, if you as an adult right now want to have a relationship with your grandchildren, this conversation needs to happen. Yeah, and I think dating needs to evolve into something healthier than what it is, because right now it's a free for all.
It's a free for all. No one knows what no one knows why they're dating. It's
No,
just
they're dating for sex.
well, true.
They're dating for the carnal act. They're dating for the end. They're cheating. They're trying to cheat.
They're trying to get to the climax.
Yeah. And I have
Pun
I have cousins. I have 3 sets of cousins who all waited. And marriage is hard.
Yeah.
Not one of them will sit here and say our marriage has been an absolute blissful delight for all 20 some odd years we've been together. Not one of them would say that.
Yeah.
But every single one of them would say 100% worth it waiting because of how hard relationships are in and of themselves, especially a marriage relationship, to add one more burden to the difficulty of building intimacy and trust and relationship.
Yeah.
Don't do it. And it's cheating. You're cheating yourself. You're cheating yourself. You're cheating your children. You're cheating the beauty of what the marriage could be by waiting. It's simple. It's not easy. It's simple.
Yeah.
It's not easy. But it is absolutely worth it.
Yeah. The classic, easier said than done.
100%. 100%.
Well, this has been fantastic. We've already outlined the next 6 or 7
We did good
podcasts
time-wise.
that we need to do.
We did good.
So yeah, tune in 18 months when we have another 6 podcasts that are in the lineup. All right. Well, this has been great.
Thank you so much
We'll
for
definitely do this
inviting me
again.
and for being brave enough to deal with the rattlesnake. I appreciate baby rattlesnake.
Love it.
The hummingbird wielding, or the sledgehammer wielding hummingbird.
Oh yeah, it's been awesome. All right. Well, we'll do this again. Definitely. I'll see you soon when we go to our next therapy session.
Right.
Not therapy session.
Coaching.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All
Thank you, Ethan.
Oh, of course.
It's been fun. It always is.
Oh yeah. See y'all later. This concludes the final part of my episode with Dr. Sarah Moreland. In the next episode, we begin part 1 of my episode with Tom Schwartz. He is a functional medicine therapist. He's super cool. He's grown to be a huge mentor of mine, and he's got some crazy stories in his journey towards his current job with a functional medicine place that he now works, and the strange role that he has. We dive into how he got there, growing up in Alaska, exploration, psychology, philosophy, physiology, work experience, and so much more. Hope you enjoy.